So I'd like to talk on our Ango theme of karma and crisis. I liked Gakyo's talk last week. I watched it this afternoon. Yeah, I don't know when it went up, but yeah, I liked it. I liked it quite a lot. If you haven't seen it or if you weren't here, I invite you to check it out. The link was in our newsletter from yesterday. And she brought this theme really home in a real personal way. The way I was hoping that we would all do is, not to think about crisis primarily as an external thing, but to think of it as something internal, the moments within our own life when we can, in a sense, make an intervention, make a conscious move or choice to practice in a certain way that can really change a lot and create good karma or bad karma, positive karma or negative karma. She mentioned last week that we were starting a precepts class series last week, which we did. So we had the first one of those last Wednesday. It was very good. I love when this time of year comes around and we are able to jump back into these precept classes. We have quite a nice large group. I think there's 15 people altogether in this class series. If you're interested in joining and you haven't signed up, you can still sign up and just join. The first session is on is on a recording, and then there's 2 more live sessions, and then we have conversations that are ongoing through the course of the rest of Ango as part of the class. So if you're interested, jump in. But it's every time it comes around, I'm just reminded of how important the precepts are as the foundation, the foundation of our practice. It gives us not only, in a sense, the purpose, the compass of, the why of what we're doing, but it gives us a tool to work with it, to really look at the precepts as a mirror of what we, how we want to be in life, what we want to manifest, and then to look at our own behavior with a mirror of the precepts and to see whether they're in accord with those precepts. And wherever there's the gap, it's, there's the point of my practice right there. And in some ways it's very simple. It's like, there it is, right there. It's like looking in the mirror and seeing you have, a blemish or that your hair is all awry. It's like, that's what I need to do. I just need to take care of that. And then it's right there. So it's a really nice, deep practice, and it's also very intimate because we each are challenged in our own unique way in terms of being whole. Some of us are challenged by some things, some by others, based on our own karmic conditions. So there's a nice diversity amongst us to bring forth our own unique individual challenges, and it's very inspiring, to see others working with it in this way. So what I want to talk about today is embracing strong emotions, right? The importance of this. We have so many decisions that we face every day. Okay, we probably don't even know how many choices we're making every day. It's one of the things about this Ango theme that I really want to bring out and keep encouraging us to look at is how many of these moments of choice that we have every day, how much agency we have to choose to respond in one way or another. The more you practice your zazen, the more you will come to see, the more sensitized you are to this. Really, every moment, you can choose, how to respond. But we usually don't feel this way. We usually feel that we have these kind of programs and autopilot routines that are kind of baked into our system, and we're not in choice, we're not in agency. But why is that? Well, I mean, the Buddha Dharma is very, very clear and very deep and very profound about, how we construct our experience, our egoic experience from sense experience. Right? We have these teachings on the 5 skandhas, or on the 12-fold chain of causality is another one of the teachings that you might have been exposed to. And I don't want to go into the details of all of these things, but the key point is that we develop from our basic sense experience, we develop a kind of, we develop reactive patterns that kind of play themselves out, which do tend to be, self-protective and self-aggrandizing around this thing, this egoic process that we call, our ego or ourself, right? But in this chain of things that happen from sense experience to story to, to story, you could say, there are moments where we can interrupt the creation of that egoic consciousness and the reinforcement of the egoic consciousness. And the way we do that with our Zen practice is to continue to return to the sensation. Back to that element of sensation. So the feeling, the breath, the intimate experience of being human in this body, in this moment. Okay? And then whatever those other things that arise from that, we notice them, but we don't engage with those. And the more we return to that momentary sense experience, the more we maintain our consciousness in that in that sense experience, and we're not taken over, hijacked, by that stories and by the autopilot routines that we experience. Okay, so what is it that often really carries us along? It really is, I think, it's our relationship to strong feelings. Fear, anger, sorrow, shame, powerlessness, humiliation, grief. Does anyone here want more of any of these feelings? I want more fear. Give me some more shame. Now, these are really uncomfortable, really uncomfortable feelings. They can be to feel. Okay, but let me offer this. This is life. A life without these things is not life. It's not human life. These feelings are the very juice of human life. Why? Because of impermanence. Because of the 3 seals of Buddhism. Impermanence, no self, dukkha, suffering. Okay. We grieve the loss of that which we desire. We avoid the things that we do not want. And we want to perpetuate a fixed condition of existence. I want to be a stable self. But none of these things will ever last. Oh, that's our fundamental condition. And it is very natural then to have these strong feelings. The fear of loss, the fear of pain or injury, sorrow over what we've lost. Shame, powerlessness. These things are very natural. These feelings are very natural. But we have so many very quick-acting strategies to not feel these things. To avoid them, to not feel these things. And this is the heart of Buddhist practice to me. Is to, not only to feel these feelings, but almost to invite them in the sense of being completely open to them. And if you are completely open to them, you will feel them because of what I just said. It will be there. So you might say, well, I don't know, everything seems to be okay. And maybe it is. But I would offer, if you're not feeling, really strongly for long stretches of time, you're probably avoiding something. So we resist the personal and the psychological sources of our suffering, what the Buddha called the second arrow. And we just avoid those. But there is intrinsically a lot of pain in being human, in our limitations, in our personal histories, in our losses, the experience of being in this body. But all of these things are actually gateways, and they can be initiations into an experience of our true self. Every one of these are be powerful openings of our wisdom eye and of our hearts. So there's a lot of evasion going on. A lot of evasion going on. We're constantly making subtle choices to avoid our unpleasantness and pain. What do we do? So, case 174 of the Shobogenzo, which is also case 43 in the Blue Cliff Record, a case I've talked about before, but I want to bring out a little different angle on it today. A monk asked Master Tozan, when cold and heat come, how can we avoid them? Tozan said, why don't you go to the place where there is no cold or heat? The monk said, what is the place where there is no cold or heat? Tozan said, when it's cold, the cold kills you. When it's hot, the hot kills you. All right. So I've actually brought in the original version of this about killing. Oftentimes we talk about this koan and we say that Tozan says, when hot, be hot, when cold, be cold, which is good. That's good. But this is more intense and more dramatic, really. When it's cold, let the cold kill you. When it's hot, let the hot heat kill you. All right, so the monk, just skewers himself, right, with his first question. How can I avoid these things? Tozan is very, very compassionate and very awesome in the depth of his response here. He doesn't tell him, he doesn't, he suggests something to him. He doesn't give him a Dharma teaching or tell him what to do. He says, why don't you go to the place? How about that? You want to try that? And then the monk is like, what? Well, what is the place where there's no cold or heat? Let's be clear here. He's not talking about just, or really at all, cold and heat. He's talking about life and death. He's talking about all conditions that in their extreme are difficult or unpleasant. Right? All of the conditions that we want to avoid. How do I avoid those? Well, actually, when it's cold, let the cold kill you. When it's hot, let the hot kill you. So what's that? Feel it completely. Completely. It means intimately. Feel the way, whatever the feeling is, permeates your body and mind. If it's sorrow, feel the sorrow completely. Completely. Grief, fear, feel it completely. Feel it so completely that there's no you feeling it. All the thoughts are kind of there, kind of hanging around in your wardrobe that paint the portrait of you that you carry around with yourself. They're gone. There's no energy for that. There's no attention for that. There's no awareness of that in the foreground. That primary consciousness is completely immersed in this intense feeling. Yeah, so you disappear. I like how he says, why don't you go to the place where there is no cold or heat? Because he's actually introducing choice. Well, here's something that you can choose to do. He doesn't tell him what to do. He offers kind of a direction. Maybe it's because my mind is tuned to karma and choice and crisis, like we've been talking about, that this just stood out to me. I hadn't noticed it before. It's like, okay, you have this extreme condition that you don't like, and you'd like to avoid. You're at choice. What are you going to do with it? I'm curious whether you feel you are at choice in our discussion, just to hear from you, whether you feel like that's available to you. And if not, why not? So what do? We replace our evasive responses with what? A spirit of positivity, a spirit of curiosity. Yeah, curiosity, positivity, like I said, even inviting or welcoming in the strong experience. Don't suppress the response, but you also don't have to necessarily express it, the strong feeling. I mean, maybe if expressing it gives you a kind of access to it, sometimes it can, expressing it might give it access to it, but it might also be a way to try to kind of control it and manage it. So a primal scream is a really good expression that I think allows you to feel something. But if you're talking about it, you're saying, well, I'm expressing my feelings, but actually what you're really doing is you're analyzing them and you're trying to control them or get somebody else to understand them, go up in your head about it. That's not what I mean by expression. I mean, that's the type of expression that you don't want to do. You want to embody it. Embody. Feel it. And this takes practice. This really does take practice. We have these very deeply embedded customary reactions to, let's call it bad news, things you don't want to hear. Somebody insults you, your partner breaks up with you, you hear about, violence on the other side of the world. Okay, and then those immediate feelings that come up around that, we don't want to feel those things. The heartbreak, the anger, the sadness, the grief. And the system just kicks in to try to do something with those things. Feel it fully. Because every bit of this, every one of these emergences of difficult feelings like this. It's an opportunity, it's a doorway, it's a portal. It's an initiation. I notice in myself when something like that comes up, my imagination kicks in really quick. I'm kind of engaged in, okay, what's going on here? Why did that happen? What does this mean about me? This is not okay. The storytelling and the speculation happen so quick and so fully. And it's all very protective. You know, maybe mostly, just really protective. So this is not okay to feel this. I need to do something about this. Or I need to do something before this gets worse. Right? It's almost the fear of the strong feeling itself becomes its own thing. So there's this kind of desperate grasping within me around getting back to some okayness. How can I be okay with this? How can I be okay with this? Okay, I want to understand it, and then I want to find a way to stop feeling this. And then ideally, fix the situation so it doesn't happen again. But that itself, that's the illusion. That you're going to get to a place where everything's okay. That's the illusion. Meaning okay, meaning, oh, I'm fixed in my identity, I'm solid, stable, I'm here, nothing's going to happen to me ever, I'm never going to feel bad again. That's the illusion that we strive for. But in striving for that, we create our own suffering, because we'll never get that. Maybe we just take the false message from moments of being, you know, like really happy and content and okay, and we feel stable, and maybe, you know, we're never going to die. Like everything just feels great. And then we just extrapolate and we say, this is how it should always be. This is how it should always be, right? But I think, but what we have to do is we have to look into those moments too. We have to look into those moments, and we see how those are changing. Those are changing even while they're there. Right? There's a Tibetan practice and chant that goes, grant that I may be given appropriate difficulties and sufferings on this journey so that my heart may be truly awakened. Yeah, so every one of these really is a opportunity to initiate ourselves into the reality of our being, which is not fixed. And some of you may know this wonderful poem from Rumi, which I want to say, called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still, treat each guest honorably. It may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from the beyond. So we're actually inviting in these strong feelings. We're befriending them. We're looking at them as teachers and guides. One part of my mind is kind of slicing and dicing and qualifying what I'm saying right now. And I'm going like, I'm kind of good with anger and fear on these things, but I really don't like shame and grief. I can do without those. So I'm going to try to manage those, but I'm going to lean into the anger and shame. Those get to come in, but the other ones I'm going to send around to the back door. Is anybody else doing that? I just noticed myself doing that. It's like, oh boy. No, the tougher it is, the bolder a teacher it is, more powerful. Yeah. So there's a few comments at the beginning of the Blue Cliff Record version of the koan, the Tozan koan. And the commenter says, with no further obscuration at all, the total potential appears equally in all situations. So this is speaking to letting the cold kill you, letting the heat kill you, okay? When you do this, when you're able to do this, this incredible potentiality opens up. The total potential appears equally in all situations. Hakuin comments on this, when the great function appears, it does not keep to routine standards. Where one stands is reality, and where one sits is reality too. So practicing with unpleasant feelings, difficult feelings like this has incredible potential. Okay, if you do make the choice to invite in these feelings and really feel them, and not evade them, and not analyze them, and not bypass them, and not try to fix them, or strategize to not feel them, this great potentiality opens from that. So you make the first choice to work with it and feel it, and then new capacity and new range of choice opens from that. Because you are standing in reality, and you are no longer trying to manipulate it. And you'll find this in your life. I know many of you have practiced with yourself this way. When you go through the tough stuff, you know, the arguments with your partner, the shame and humiliation and fear that you feel, when you go through it, you come out on the other side empowered. Your own range of action is magnified. So each one of these can be a crisis, you know, in the way that we're talking about it. Each one of these can come in, and there's a moment there where you can choose to feel it, or choose to avoid it, or bypass it, or avoid it. And it's a world of difference. A world of difference. The karma you create is completely different when you make that choice. Okay, so that's my talk for today. I just want to inspire you, even if it's a little bit, to like actually welcome the tough stuff into your life. Actually welcome. I even noticed myself saying like, yeah, I'll try, but not really. Like it's so counterintuitive. And it takes practice to like really internalize what happens when you do that. And it's awesome. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, that it doesn't suck. It does suck. In fact, it sucks even more than if you avoid it, you know, because we're often able to numb ourselves and push it. It really hurts. it really sucks. The bad stuff. It does. But if you have the courage, and the willingness to feel it, it's profound and transformative. So I, along with you, strive to practice in this way. Yeah. Thank you.